When you're laying out your vegetable garden, you need to group plants according to water needs and sun. If you live on the northern hemisphere, then you need to put your shortest crops to the south of your growing area. And if you live in the southern hemisphere of the earth, that's going to be switched. So, for example, you don't want to put your corn on the front row and put lettuces right behind it, or the lettuce is going to be shaded by the tall corn. So that's the first rule, is lay out your vegetables according to height so that none of your crops are shaded. Identify which plants are vining and will need to grow on a trellis or spread all over the ground, and plan accordingly. That's going to be tomatoes, pumpkins, winter squash, pole beans, blackberries. Those are a few that are going to need to be grown near a trellis of some kind. So those are the two things. First, you're going to lay out according to height, and then identify your vining ones and figure out the trellis thing. Companion planting refers to two crops that can be grown in close proximity. So radishes, for example, can be grown down the middle of a row of beets. The radishes mature quickly in about 50 days, and then they can be harvested before the beets get large enough to crowd them out. If you're growing in a really small space, then companion planting can be so useful. There are a lot of good combinations out there that you can look up, and you can experiment trying different things yourself. So you'll also want to lay out your garden according to water needs if possible. So watering lettuce the same as tomatoes will affect one or both negatively. If you're using irrigation methods with a hose or with water rights, you'll need to group plants that have similar water needs together. So I talk more about what those water needs are in the modules about water and about flood irrigation. And I provide a list of plants according to root depth so you can properly lay out your vegetable garden. So use those lists because you're going to need them as you design where to put different things. But that's at the heart of it. Group your plants according to root depth, according to water needs. When choosing what to plant and how much of it, I highly recommend sticking to vegetables that you like and that you know you will use. So when your plants and seedlings are small, it's so easy to forget that one little 2-inch zucchini plant will be pumping out zucchinis all summer. So be sure to grow only as much as you will use. If you've never had a garden, I do recommend at least trying a few new things that you've never cooked with before, because you may be surprised at how much you love it from the garden. Garden produce, if grown right, is amazingly better than anything you can get from the store, so keep that in mind. Also, it might push you to try new recipes that you and your family end up loving that you might not expect. But that said, grow the most of what you're really going to use and be realistic about it. And, if you really don't eat zucchini, don't grow it. Grow what you love, grow what you're going to use. If you have a limited space, then consider choosing crops that will give a lot in a small space, such as peppers and tomatoes, and hold off on maybe some crops that take up a lot of space, like corn or pumpkins. You can also be creative with trellises and take notes each year. You'll learn new things and methods that will work for you. So, in the spring, lay out your vegetable garden and group plants according to water needs. Put the shortest crops on the sun side so they aren't shaded, and grow only as much as you'll use and more of what you enjoy the most. Try new things here and there, and you may be surprised to find a few new favorites. So hopefully that's helpful as you get started laying out your vegetable garden. Think about your spring garden, your summer garden, your fall garden. Think about what's going to finish when, and then what you might plant in the place of that thing that fades. So just taking all of those different things into account as you plan your vegetable garden.